Welcome to Musings of an Extrovert. My name is Darvin. I am your resident extrovert as well as your host. I am glad you've been listening if you've been listening for a while. If this is the first time listening, thank you for choosing to take some time with me today and with my guest today. Before we get into the topic of discussion and before we introduce the guest, please like and subscribe the podcast. If you enjoy this, help me grow, help me get to more users, and so people can listen to the podcast and enjoy it as well, just as you have. So like, subscribe, as well as comment, and hit that notification bell if you're watching on YouTube. That way you can get notified every single time we drop an episode. Now, our guest here today is a good friend of mine. Very thankful for this man. He's an awesome guy. He is a husband. He is a father. And he is good at those two things, and he's good at a ton of other things. But he's an admirable man, and I'm very thankful to know him. His name is Auri Jones. Auri, say hi.
Hey, how's it going, everybody? Glad to be here.
Yeah. I'm so thankful that you and your wife were able to come back into town, into Virginia Beach.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, we've been all over the place the past couple of months, and so we knew we were coming back to Virginia Beach. We had to see you guys, so
yeah, we're glad you did. So for those that don't know, Ari's wife is amazing at making cakes. So this is a plug for her. If you need cakes done for anything, she's great at making cakes, and you should totally slip her some money to make you some cakes.
You should.
She's awesome.
Get them out of my house.
Yeah, and she made us some cakes, and they came over to Liana's place, and we had a little taste testing, and that was just a lot of fun. So we're excited for our wedding and to have these cakes for us. So, Ari, you guys just came in from Charlotte. Mm-hmm. Tell us a little bit about the new adventure that you guys went on.
Yeah, definitely. So this whole year has been a new adventure. As far as March, we had our second child, Noah Joy, and she's a few months old now. And then in April, sold our house, and we were preparing to move to Charlotte. End of April, rented in Charlotte, because we're not going to buy in this society right now. We're going to wait a little bit for things to calm down and kind of like know exactly what we're getting. And then in June, my mom actually moved in with us, which is a whole new adventure.
Yeah.
In itself.
Yeah. How long have you guys been married?
So we've been married 6 years.
6 years.
Yeah.
So it's been about 6 years that your mom hasn't lived with you, or that any family members have lived with
actually,
you.
I've always been the type to just kind of like be on the go. And so when I was 16, I graduated from high school. I was just about to turn 17 that summer, and I have not lived at home since.
Wow. Yeah, so you haven't lived with your family in a long time.
No. Went straight to college and straight to other endeavors. And so this is definitely... My mom is used to 16-year-old high school senior versus what I am now.
Full-grown man, has 2 kids,
right.
Wife.
So sometimes it's kind of like, we're a different dynamic now. But
oh my gosh,
it has been a definite journey. And then my wife is now a stay-at-home mom, which is new for her. And we're just learning all sorts of new different challenges and stuff, and this new season of life, as well as adding to the move and everything. So it's been something. Yeah.
I mean, I remember we found out probably about a month before you left, or a month and a half before you guys were headed out. And man, it's always a new adventure when friends are moving away. And tell us a little bit about change. So you and I talked about this a little bit just a couple minutes ago, about how much you like change.
Yeah, I love change. Ever since I was a kid, I've always liked the aspect of something new. And it always gets me excited of like, oh, this is something new, this is something different, something that I'm going to have to learn or grow or learn how to survive or thrive in. And even with the job that I do, like, it's constant change. Like, and I love it. And what people around me are like, another change, like, what are we doing? Can we just like pause for a moment? I'm like, let's go, keep going. And so I have to be kind of cognizant of the people around me that are not so fond of change, and how they kind of just want to like put the brakes on, and I'm like full pedal to the metal.
Yeah.
Like, let's keep going. And so I've learned that's a big difference between my wife and I, and my, like, just people around me. So I've learned that, and I've also learned to be comfortable when things are not changing, or not necessarily comfortable, but be content when things are not changing, because that's something that I've always struggled with. Like, I get restless very easy. If I'm kind of just like lay low, I'm always looking for like, hey, what's the next thing that I could be like productive in, or could be like getting involved in, or could like experience. And so God kind of teaches me. He's like, you know what? So you might want to just, be still a little bit. I've never really told anybody in the Bible ever to just be busy. So I've told a lot of people to sit down and be quiet.
Oh my gosh.
And so I'm like, okay, I get it. I come across those verses every once in a while. I'm like, I feel like this is a personal thing there.
Yeah. I love the way the Lord speaks to you. He speaks very, very matter of fact.
Right. It's like, if you were a female, your name would be Martha. I get it, right? So
I love it. Oh my gosh. I mean, change, it really is for some people it can be like so hard to do change, to be okay with change. I'm kind of like, probably if change is on the left and everything staying the same is on the right, I'm probably like just off right in the middle, in that area, because I do like, I like change in some ways. I think it offers new beginnings. It offers different things. And I think change itself doesn't necessarily mean good or bad. It's the situation, obviously, like if, the change was a death in the family, that for most people is bad.
Right.
And they're like, this is a negative change. It's not a positive change. In some cases, people might look at it as a positive change. I mean, I don't know who would be like, oh man, like Hitler, passed
Right.
away. But to the same degree, some changes are positive, very positive changes. You're very happy when you get a bonus at work. You're very happy when you are eating food when you haven't had food for a couple hours. Like it's a positive change in your day. So change is happening all the time.
Right.
But a lot of people don't recognize those little changes, and it's the big changes that are always freaking them out.
Right. And I think I like the writer in me, because I love writing, always have as a kid, like looks at life as a story. And so every change that happens is kind of just like a new development in the story. Even I used to tell my parents this all the time. It was like really weird, but I always like, I think of life like either as a story or a movie, because I can even just like, while I'm in a situation, like I can hear like the soundtrack. I'm like, oh, this would be like perfect music to play over the situation right now.
Yeah.
And so like I think that's where like a lot of my love for change is because I'm like, oh, this is a cool part of the story, or a different part of the story, like what's gonna happen next type thing. So yeah, I get that.
And that's a great segue into this next question for me. Storytelling. You are a storyteller. You've written 3 books at this point, or more? 4 books.
Yep.
So you've written 4 books. Could you tell our audience about your books?
Yes. So the first 3 are actually part of a series of 4. The 4th one has not been written yet, but it's there. It's in my head. And the series is called the Abandoned Prayer series. And the first book is called God Make Me Uncomfortable, which I always get like the weirdest looks. In fact, I was just at a coffee shop the other day, and I do this kind of as on purpose, but I always carry a couple of my books and I just like put it on the coffee shop table while I'm doing work. And people like walk by, and this one guy like looked at it, and he's like, "Can I take a picture of that?" I was like, "Sure." And he like takes pictures, like, that is a very interesting book title, and I don't know if I want to read it, but just in case. He's like, just in case I feel great.
Do I really want to ask God to make me uncomfortable?
Right,
Yeah.
right. And so, like, I said, well, I'm the one who wrote it. I'm the author of this book, and so we got to start talking about like his journey and everything like that. And the whole purpose behind God Make Me Uncomfortable was when I was living in Lynchburg, Virginia. I was meeting with a pastor friend of mine, and another friend, and we were. My other friend and I were both in like this series of transitions, and my pastor said, like, so what's one prayer that if you could pray for yourself, if you feel God wants you to pray for yourself, what's that one prayer? And not planned, but both of us at that same time said, God, make me uncomfortable. And he's like, that is the dumbest prayer you're gonna pray, but it's also the best prayer you're gonna pray. And it was all just like the fact that like if you get to a point in your life where everything around you that you would place as your comfort like is completely uncomfortable to you, then you have nowhere to go but to God.
Yeah.
And to pray that prayer means like, hey, I'm willing to ask God to do whatever it takes to just have him as my focus.
Yeah.
And from that birthed a story of a family that kind of is in that position. Like their lives are great, really. But they sense like there's something missing between them and God. And so they start to pray this prayer, and it follows their journey of praying this prayer. And you get to see like how God just completely like changes their lives.
Wow.
And it does it in I call it a modern day parable. So you follow the story, but after each chapter, there are devotions that explain this whole prayer. And it is actually a prayer that's written out, the God Make Me Uncomfortable prayer.
Yeah.
And then God kind of just took me on another journey of saying like, well, what's after uncomfortable? And the next book in the series is God Make Me Broken.
Yeah.
And it teaches about what brokenness is and what it means to have God make you whole, like to fully function wholly in him.
Yeah.
Versus trying to like manufacture this life of your own to function in. And then after that is God Make Me Weak, which that's a pretty tough prayer to pray in itself. But it's again going to that Paul statement of like basically when I'm weak, that's when I realize your strength, or my strength is made perfect, or your strength is made perfect in my weakness. Yeah. And learning how to pray that prayer. And so it follows the same family. I think between the first and the second book, there's like 8 years difference. And so you get to see like the growth there and following that family. But
that's cool.
It's a fun but challenging like story. So I wrote it as I'm writing it. I'm learning this stuff myself. Yeah. And like this is my devotions that I'm going into and my Bible study.
Praise God.
And so it's been really good. And then the other fourth book is called Seeking God: A Summer at Camp Quest. And it's like the fun summer read that just follows this one guy who like is in this transition of just like, so what is my life? Like what is the purpose of my life? And he winds up having a friend that's like, hey, we're going to be camp counselors for a summer. Yeah. And it talks about the wild and crazy journeys that happened that summer and the crazy, like you get to meet all sorts of characters, and it's all true stories from my summers as a camp counselor. I was a camp counselor for 9 summers.
Wow.
And so while the names are different and some of the situations are kind of like muddled and everything like that, they're all true stories of what happened. And so it's a very fun, like comical, exciting, adventurous, and also a little bit of drama in there too. Yeah. But it's a cool read.
That's really awesome. Yeah. This is something that I think Auri and I really connected on. I was just thinking about this because Liana earlier, she said that her mom was asking how I had time for all the things that I'm doing. Like as she was talking about, or Liana was telling her about how I'm coaching at Norfolk Christian now for their volleyball team. I'm co-coaching, I should say. I'm not head coach. But she was asking, how does he have time for all of this stuff that he's doing? And I just think to myself, when she said that, I thought to myself, well, I don't know that I have time. Right. It's, everything that we do, we make time for. And I was just thinking about you because when you were here, I was like, man, he is doing a million things all the time. And I think I connected with you on that level because I'm the same way. It doesn't feel like I'm doing a million things all the time. Sometimes, you get, tired, you get, weary from doing all the stuff you do, but most times I'm just like, yeah, this is what I do. I go and I do the things. If the Lord's calling me to do something, I'm gonna go do it. And if it's adding to a lot of stuff, some things get out of the way if I need to get them out of the way, and some things I make time to do. Like sleep will come.
It'll eventually come.
It will happen if we sleep during our life or when we're dead. And then eternally we'll get the most amount of rest. A seventh day is coming, and we will get that eternal rest, but the work time is now.
Yeah, I attribute it to again, my job is ever changing, and what I do, there's a lot of multitasking, a lot of projects, a lot of this, a lot of that, and a lot of committees that I'm involved in and everything like that. And I had one of my mentors just say, you know what, it's cool to do a whole lot of things, just make sure they all connect and they all make you grow. And when you get to something that's you have something that you're doing that doesn't help you grow or doesn't continuously make you a better person, then you're done with it. It may have been good for a season.
Yep.
And so I kind of keep that mindset too. Yeah. And so making sure the writing projects I do, the music projects that I do, anything I do on the side, all that stuff, make sure that it's continuously helping me grow and helping my family grow, et cetera. So
yeah. And let's talk about the music, because you're also doing a lot of things in music. Let me tell you something. I was bopping in the car when I heard your version of Awesome God.
Oh, yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh, man, preach. Those, so I've heard Awesome God done in rap a million times, because I love Awesome God. And I remember there was this old version of it that I still can't seem to find anywhere.
Oh, really?
They were doing, the verse of the song. Most people actually don't know that it has a verse. They just think it's just singing, our God is an awesome God, he reigns, that whole part. But there is a verse, and the very first verse is when he rolls up his sleeves, he ain't just put it on the Ritz.
Yeah.
And I remember hearing that as a rap when I first heard it.
Okay.
I didn't hear the M.W. Smith version, which was the him singing it,
right?
Or whoever was it Mullins, Rich Mullins.
Mullins, yeah.
So I had never heard that version first. I heard the rap version, and then R. Swift. I don't know if you've heard his version.
Love R. Swift. Yeah, Philly.
That one is fire. I listen to it all the time. And then I heard yours, and I was like, oh my gosh, this is better than our Swift version. Sorry, R. Swift, if you listen to my podcast. I mean, I doubt you listen to my podcast, but if you do, that's really cool, and that I'll claim that.
Right, we appreciate that. That's for sure.
But I was like, man, this is so much better. I want to hear this one live sometime. We don't have it live for you guys here today. I kind of set that up as though it was gonna be, but it's not. Sorry about that. But man, that was so good. Tell us a little bit about your projects, all the things that you're doing with music down there.
Oh man, so music is really just, I mean, it's a hobby and a way of just connecting with people. I started doing music when several years ago I was working with the crisis pregnancy centers, and I was teaching family life for them in the schools. And so I would teach in the middle schools and the high schools, and they would talk about, kids would talk about the music they were listening to, and I was like, it'd be kind of cool to just do cool positive music for them.
Yeah.
And so I was like, why not?
Yeah.
So I just started recording, made a CD, passed it out to the kids at the schools, and they loved it. And I made another one, passed it out to them, and it was just positive, fun music for them to listen to that had just good morals and values and everything like that. And then started just kind of making stuff as I was working with youth.
Yeah.
And did concerts, and it was more that the Jesus music, the anthems, and kind of the "Our God is an Awesome God" type. And then a couple years into it, I kind of shifted into doing a lot more what I call more, I guess what I would call my to be honest music, the honest feelings that people have about God and Christianity and life. And I remember doing, I think one of my first ones was a song called "Scream." And it's based off of David's psalm, where he talks about as the deer pants for water, so my soul longs for you, God. And really just that longing is really when your lungs scream for air. When you're panting, your lungs are screaming for like the oxygen. It's longing for it, and
Yeah.
and how we sometimes need to scream in life. In fact, when I was working as a youth director, one of the activities I had, I'd take my kids out. We would go into the field. I'm like, all right, so one by one, just go ahead and scream. And they would look at me like, why? I was like, trust me, just do it. And so the first kid would go up there and just like yell and scream, thinking it was funny. And all of a sudden, like, wow, that felt like really good.
Yep.
And like the next person would do it, and like it became like a regular activity of just being able to like scream,
Yep.
and to relate the fact that like, man, like sometimes like that's what I want my longing to be for with God, but also that's sometimes my need is to scream. And so I wrote a song about that, and a lot of the songs, even up until the last one that I put out, which is called Sometimes I Just and then dot, which is basically just talking about like sometimes there's so much that I want to say, it's so much that I deal with and everything like that, but sometimes I just gotta just be silent and let God be God.
Yeah.
Like with my thoughts, with my doubts, with fears, with everything that's going on in society.
Yeah.
And so I used to perform a lot in bars and in clubs. And I'd be the only Christian there.
Yep.
And people would come up to me after the show, be like, "So I will never go into a church, but that music, like, that really hits."
Yeah.
And I'm like, "Oh, cool!" And then we'd be able to talk with someone. Or I had when Shaka's was Shaka's, and there was a lot of like music concerts and everything like that. I think I was one of the openers for a Futuristic or something like that. And the music promoter was like, "Listen, I just want to say this. Like, we never get Christians in here. Like, you are literally the only Christian that ever comes through and like performs."
Wow.
And he's like, "I give you props for that, and your music's good."
Yeah.
I was like, "Well, that's kind of what I want to do. I want my music to be like the music that like non-Christians and people who are struggling with their relationship with God, or even just like with God in general, they listen to it and like, oh, okay, like I get, like he gets it, like he gets what I'm struggling with, and there's like an answer there, and so I love being that sounding board.
Let me just say this too. When I first met you, you had been doing some rapping at church in worship team. You had been writing some raps for some songs that are mainstream Christian worship songs that we would put in, and Christy would have you do them. And I remember when I heard one of your raps in the middle of one of the songs, I was moved. I don't remember the words. I just remember the moment of being moved by like, man, like it reminded me. And this is something that's super cool. When I was young, in middle school and high school, I had heard a lot of Trip Lee. And Trip Lee was... I loved Trip Lee.
Trip Lee is my fave.
116. That song particularly was one that kept on like making its rounds in my music, and I just remembered, man, that was so rich for me, because he was rapping a lot of scripture, and he was rapping a lot of truth. And then you hear a lot of his songs, a lot of people like Andy Mineo, Lecrae, some other guys that are talking about the different things that are going on in their life, and then sharing their struggles with rap, and then also their faith in the midst of all those struggles. And then hearing the songs that you were writing, or the raps you were writing in the middle of these songs. It was just so cool, because it reminded me, man, like we can communicate so much with music.
That's true.
We communicate so much with music, and rap has a very special place in music, that it doesn't have the limitations of words that songs do in a lot of ways. Like a song, you have your chorus, which you might have to keep the same every single time, or just change it slightly. You can't change it too much. And in rap, you can jam pack a whole book into a rap song, because you have so much, like it's freedom in rhythm, and you make things work within it, and you can change words up and fix them in there that you can't do in just a normal song.
And I think that's why I love it too, because again, the writer in me
Yep.
always likes to tell a story, but I also realized like the whole, like, one of the main origins and like goals of hip hop and rap was to communicate a cultural message.
Yep.
Especially in the hood and especially in the ghettos, like being able to like not only bring a community together but communicate to the world like this is us type thing. And I think that's, as a Christian artist, like that's one of the things that I love to use it for, is to promote that Christian culture, that God culture, but also like this is us as not only Christians but also humans in general. And connecting with that is one of the reasons why I love, like, I used to get questions all the time about like why would you get on tracks that for like with secular artists, and like there's some artists that I have like verses on that they're cussing up a storm and doing all that stuff. And then you hear my verse, and you're like, wait, so like they don't mind you rapping about God and Jesus? I'm like, listen, it's totally switched. Like the secular culture, as long as it sounds good, you can rap about whatever you want. And so I love that freedom. And you're like, oh, so as long as I'm on point, making sure it's good, I can share the gospel. And that's a lot of the people that I've networked with, like producers and stuff, like a friend of mine in Sweden, who like heard my music and was like, wow, this is cool. And we've gotten to talk about God. And another friend of mine who is in Connecticut, he heard my music and was like, oh, this is really cool. It sounds hot. And it's Christian. Like, can we do a record together? Sure. Let's do a whole album together.
I love it.
And it's a great like ministry to be able to get on the different songs with people who they may cuss up a storm and have all this stuff, but I'm gonna put on a track, it's gonna have Jesus all up in it.
And that's the thing, like when you are willing to go into the places that we as believers would say, if they're cussing up a storm, they're not bridling their tongue, but we're saying we're still gonna be there with you. And that's just the same as if someone comes into your house who's, cussing up a storm in your house, you're still going to feed them.
Right.
You're still going to set a table spot for them and enjoy them and have them as a guest in your home. It's the whole Bishop and Jean Valjean situation.
Yeah, definitely.
Is you are always going to bring them in. If you truly love Jesus and you are seeking to love him with all your life, that is something that we do naturally out of our believer heart. It's our flesh that pushes against us and tries to make us want to push them away or push anyone away, and so it's the same thing in music. If you're going to go out there and you're going to engage with this world, like we can engage in the places where we would say, yes, we're not partaking in that, but we're going to use this influence that we have to share the gospel and to love these people, help them make good music, good sounding music, while also like combating some of the things that would be in a lot of different places. I mean, like, for someone going and working in the secular world, working in a secular business, it's the same thing. I mean, I'm not going to disengage from them just because they're a secular business. I'm going to engage more so for that reason, because I have this message, I have this bread that I can bring to these beggars, beggars who don't even know they're beggars, so I think it's awesome. You did that so much while you were here. I loved getting to be a part of that in some ways too. We got to perform together. You came and performed with me on the streets too, which was fun.
It was so much fun.
And so if you don't know Auri, you just heard a lot about him. Really great guy. Where can people get your books? Where can they get your music?
So the easiest thing to do is to find me on Instagram. Almost the easiest thing to do. REPM516. Easiest thing to do. And then the link tree in my bio like has everything. It has all the books, where you can access those. You can get them as an ebook or as a written book. And I might do hardback, because I know Amazon has the ability to do hardback.
Yeah.
And I've got some more coming up. There's so many book ideas I have in my head. So
I love it.
Yeah, you're gonna love the next ones that come out. And then the music is also on there. You can find it on Spotify. You can find it on Apple Music, iTunes, Amazon Music, all of that. And it's under my stage name, which is Rep. But you can also find the links for that in my Instagram as well too. And I do a lot more of my engagement on there. Not as much TikTok. You know.
It's baby steps. I mean, content creation, it's not as much of a walk in the park as people think it might be. You know, it definitely takes a lot of devotion, and sometimes it takes whole teams of people to do. So
exactly,
that makes total sense.
But yeah, check it out for sure.
Yeah. So we'll have that in the description. That is all the time we have for today. Auri and his wife are going to be doing other visiting throughout town and some other things. So we're going to give them that time, and we're probably going to go walk by the beach for just a little bit. His wife and kids and my fiance, they've been out there for a little bit now. So
my oldest daughter is probably like halfway to Europe by now. So.
Oh my gosh. Well, like I said, I'll have that link in the description for you guys, so you guys can find Auri. What was the Instagram handle again?
It's REPM516. Repum 516 is what it's.
Love it.
Yeah.
Love it. So you should go listen to Ari's music, go get his books, help him out, and enjoy him as well. He was just telling me, it's not out yet, but he was just telling me that he's probably going to be doing a podcast. So I'm excited to hear that podcast. It's cool stuff coming. I won't share anything else about it. I'll leave that a little more of a secret, but he is just a beast. He is doing some awesome things. So go follow him and go like all of his stuff. Go do all the things, and we will see you on the next time. And before we leave, please like, subscribe, comment, and hit that notification bell if you're watching on YouTube. That way you can get notified every single time we drop an episode. My name's Darvin.
And I'm Auri.
And I hope you have a wonderful day.